In a world that moves fast and forgets easy, veterans, after they take off their uniforms, coaches, shaping tomorrow's leaders today, volunteers, choosing service over self, everyone has a story. And most of them exist because they kept trying. These are the stories, so they are not forgotten. My name is Bill Lau, and this is Semper Tri, because trying beats quitting. Welcome back to Semper Tri. We are continuing on with part 2 of episode 5, so we'll get right into it with Nick Nelson here and continue listening to his story.
So yeah, that was fun, and I always weightlifted, with a few guys. The Travis Pest, him and I were real tight, same truck a lot of the times. So him and I just you get to uh through a mission getting like north, and it, like I said, it's 2, 3, 4. Sometimes the sun's coming up. Well, you're so wired, like from either what we went through or what happened to that. So you just it's a lot of time. You play cards if it was a chill mission. Try to get calmed down and some sleep. Some guys could conk out like that, and other guys just depended on. But did a lot of weightlifting or spent time in the gym. That was my go-to. A lot of guys were, you know what I mean, on downtime. So that's one, like Cutter there, just lifted weights, movies. They had nice amenities, food. I don't know, just a good chill um break. It was fun.
And so was this often, or was this just like
It was
one
just
time?
one time deal. You kind of rotated through. So in your platoon, we always had like two, or I don't know if it's like 2 or 3 extra per platoon. So you always had one guy home on leave for their, was it 2 weeks, whatever it was, a week at home, or in Qatar. And I think I don't remember if they started giving us the R&R trip when we got in the Qatar, when we got extended. I don't remember. That doesn't matter. So yeah, and then I want to say that was midsummer, the second summer. So on the way to that halfway point, scanning our fuel point, there was multiple, call them radio relay points. So our communications, our radios would only get so far, but to communicate from, you know, that strip of the chunk, you'd have these small little fobs station, spread out. So then the time we were there, they shut down all but one that was basically halfway between. And so then our company got tasked with manning that. So then, and it was a month rotation. So one platoon would be there a month, and then we'd take turns. And our time was out. Yeah, I remember it was hot. So it had to been a summer month before. Yeah, short. Yeah, it was like the last month before we came home, middle of summer. And that was fun. So it was, yeah, platoon size element. We had uh, a couple engineers to build stuff for us, and we had a few local Iraqis that would be there to help them, I guess, or always improving the structure, that type of. We had a cool little gym out there too, so that was, but it was nice.
Anything ever happened while you were there?
No, not really. You do route security. That was part of the day to day. Pick stuff up, or just anything that you, whether it was, tires, or just, you always, I don't know how many miles we covered, just making the daily rounds. Nothing really. A couple times where it's like, yeah, somebody's buzzing around with a truck or something. You have to go check out. It's middle of the night, but it was pretty quiet. I don't remember anything really, but it was a same type of trailers with living quarters. You got to make your own, or had our own kitchen, so it was fun to finally cook for yourself. Whether it's, yeah, just cook yourself instead of at the mercy of chow hall food, which was always good. It was nothing to complain about there. But um, and there's a local that would come out there and sell local groceries and stuff. Actually, eggs and that kind of, whether it was, yeah, or fresh bread, that was always good. And so yeah, and I was out there 6 weeks, so a few weeks longer. I think I went there early to whatever, I don't know, whatever the my lieutenant. Yeah, I went there early and stayed later. So, but I was ready to be done with it. And you're one of the that was your facilities. You didn't have bathrooms, so it was diesel in a barrel. Your outhouse, and you burn. It's one of the morning things. You burn shit with diesel, and um, yeah, limited amount of water. Yeah, that kind of living. But it was nice to
Air
do.
conditioning, I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah. But it was, obviously, when you're out, you got to do the work. But it was nice because you're off the radar, the higher up. So as far as the dicking around factor and just having fun, um, you know, obviously it was our chunk of the air to be responsible for. It was a good time.
On any of these trips,
Nothing really bad happened, I guess. It was
no,
just
like never hit any IEDs.
oh yeah, I kind of alluded to that. Like every well, there's whether it was our every mission, something always happened. Whether it was convoys ahead you, behind, or our own, and you tried to I guess, like I said, it evolved, but there's the IEDs, improvised explosive devices, and they anything from like a 120 round, 155, how they would get them to detonate, whether it's a wire cross. So you're always looking for that as a, especially as as a scout truck. So get back on the convoys. So the farther into the deployment, we were escorting 30 trucks, and then we got not replacement extra guys that were say graduating basic back home, and then ended up catching up with us in Iraq or where it came later, and then we ended up rolling 6 gun trucks with 30 semis. So then you had 2 scout trucks instead of one. And it got hotter the longer we stayed there as far as stuff happening. The benefit to run them 2 scout trucks and the front one way out. Otherwise, the what would happen is they would wait till your scout trucks go through, and we wanted the most distance or times to find stuff or check stuff out before you had a mess of your convoy rolling through where you should have had them stop, or they tried to get you to stop, and then do it, a complex attack, small arm fire, or blow an IED and then follow with something else. And that time to time, a few times with our platoon. My first time where I got my cab combat action badge was June 6th that first summer. And then there's multiple, some complex, but a lot of time we'd find them before. I don't know how many IDs we found, that was always you took pride in that. And that was a company pride, that our company was squared away. We found them, nothing. I mean, there was a few Purple Hearts, probably more that should have been Purple Hearts type of, um, but so it was, but we had our, a lot of, we could find them before if we are good. And um, yeah, depending on a lot of different situations. Like I said, they would keep changing. You think you get them figured out, or like, yeah, we got it. And then you got to change what you're looking for or doing. We get better armor. You think you feel, yep, we got better vehicles. We got called ASVs, or they got personnel carrier, or not it's like we got big wheels. It looks like a mini tank kind of.
Yeah.
They haul ass, and it's got a little turret on it for a gunner that can sit inside, so he's not exposed with a 50 cal and a Mark 19 grenade launcher. And those are bad. Like they're fun to drive. I was a driver for my LT for a while, and when we first got those, and they're fun to drive, but as far as doing a long-term mission, it was bad enough in the Humvees, but all I had for a seat was a little donut seat, and yeah, my back's still F from that ride in that thing, but it felt safe. You didn't have the but like I said, they would change something. They started using EFP chart, or what do they call it, place charges, where they can, instead of a big bomb going off everywhere, they'd call it a shape charge where they cone it and then be able to blow it up so it goes right, directly right at your vehicle, and they'd time it right. And like I said, you felt cool. And them ASVs are like safer, but they ripped through one of them, not our company, but same, probably, in a hot area, and smoke one of them. So it's like crap, your vehicles don't feel as good as much. And then there's you do different things, like the gun you'd add, we call it pulp glass. So you had your normal turret sits up like AFAR, so big like chest. You got your 50 cal. As a 50 cal gunner, the last months we were there, got quite a few missions doing that. And that was probably the fun, felt more control. And I had a really good driver. So being a gunner with a driver that you're really tight with, that basically you can tell him what to do and he doesn't even think about it, just reacts. And him and I, Scotty B, he was that type of driver where he didn't, cliff over there and tell him to take a lefty, just without even, that was okay. And then, yeah, we were scout trucks, like, or second one, for most of the remaining of the deployment. Yeah. But those ASVs were, like I said, they had that little mini turret. You couldn't see where the crap out of them, especially, hatched down. You just had little viewing windows. But we'd run them, the first truck in the convoy, or, right in front of the convoy, so that if, like, our scout trucks, we'd get hit, they could come cruising up with that and lay in with we'd already have whatever identified, whether, and they could come at, lay waste with the Mark 19. So it's easy, they just follow what you were shooting at type of stuff. Yeah.
First time, do you remember your first time for like, okay, you may be going over there, you may be doing these missions, but that first time you were actually getting fired at and you had to return fire? I mean, was that like, this is what I signed up for, or is like, holy crud, or
You don't even think,
just second nature, like, this is why we're here, who cares, we're going for it?
Yeah, you just react, how we're training what in the situation. It was I think that the first one where I got my cab, we were coming out of Anaconda. I think it was the first time I was gunning on a really hot area. There's other times that you'd take turns, but coming out of that night, and the convoy, or was it is IED? Well, we call it a complex attack, which meant you got IED'd either once or basically to get your convoy to do something, stop, react however, and then hit you with small arms fire. And I was middle gun truck at that time, and they were already boom, yeah, we're fine, let's keep rolling. And then they started in. So as we're still farther back, you're seeing tracers whipping, and that it was almost, well, it was worse coming home with empty tankers, especially the Mogo gas ones, because they blow up easier than full ones. So you're waiting for that to happen. But yeah, as we're seeing tracers fly, knowing we're still going with the convoy. So I was like, you had a minute to think like, holy shit, like we're far enough away, I can't see muzzle flash. But as we got closer, then
we got to get in this.
Let her rip. But I was always a 50 cal gunner, and you didn't get to pick. You always, you had the 50s out in front, the 240 machine gun in the middle. We always had actually, I had a saw, which is squad automatic mounted up there too. But that 50 cal is a vehicle stopper. So yeah, that kind of that's some. I mean, there's RCOM, if you know what that is. That was another mission. Just what our platoon did, reacted, and did. So
18 months basically over there. So now you're coming home. It's got to be what, getting into 07 already?
Yeah, July we got back to, demobbed in Fort McCoy. I try to all your paperwork and stuff and class. Demob stuff. Make sure you're all right, med stuff, and blah blah blah, and then bust back to Sauk Center.
So you come back here.
Big welcome home. So that was pretty cool. It was a pretty cool community to see him, and when we got deployed or mobbed, you're already family or really close with these guys because it's live and work in the area. You start to it's more than just a lot of the guys from that area were friends, and and actually to rewind, Charlie, a lot of the guys either did a Bosnia or a Honduras deployment before that. So a lot of the guys that I was with this unit mobbing up, they had already been through a deployment, completely different type of what they did and whatnot. So that was cool, that they had that already. Yeah, like I said, we had our stuff squared away, and not just our platoon, but the whole company. Like I said, it was 4 platoon that they rarely got hit, but they were really good at finding them. They had like what the actual name of it, but infrared, so they could see heat signatures, whether it was during the day or at night. And it was I can't remember what that thing was called that they rolled on their scout truck, and the guy that they had at Judas was really, I think that was, if they're a good operator, I remember they're good at picking them out. So yeah.
So you get back. What are you 21 yet?
You get back. No, I turned 21 in Iraq.
Okay, so you get back to 21.
Full duels and got my ass punches, a tradition thing. Platoon did, yeah. So I turned 21 there, got Fort McCoy, demobbed, and then came home.
Okay, so I mean, like, you joined, went to boot camp, and pretty much got activated right away. So it was almost like you did join.
Yeah.
I mean, for your first almost 2 years here. I mean, with your 6 months of training, and I mean,
it felt like it, and then only with breaks between drill, and try to, I don't remember, I think it was farmer doing my strawberries or staying busy that summer. Yeah, it was, I always, dang, drill this weekend or whatever. But yeah, it was most of my contract was that deployment. And then, so yeah, I got back and party like rock stars for a bit, and then I actually was signed up. So yeah, we got extended, and Gretchen and I, my wife, we were scheduled. We had our wedding plan October 13th. So we were planning on being home, whatever, in March there. So they have the whole summer.
How long were you with Gretchen? Were you with her when you joined? Were you?
Yeah, we're high school sweethearts.
Okay. So she went through all this too, and
Yeah.
2 years of roughness for her.
So yeah, we got to know each other, and
So some of these Nelson wives are pretty tough putting up with the deployments that their husbands go through.
more or less. And then after the deployment, yeah. So yeah, got to know. I was a sophomore. She was a senior in high school.
Oh,
yeah, she took advantage.
Yeah, rocking the cradle she was.
Yeah, I was into the more mature ones. So yeah, hung out in 4-H. I thought she's out. Well, yeah, she's out of my league, but holy shit, talking to me. So yeah, hanging out 4-H state fair, and then that we actually at the same school together, and fun way. Just started. Just basically friends, and pretty soon it evolved. So yeah, we're together, and then she graduated, went to vet tech school in Ridgewater, and Wilmer. So they stuck with me, through I don't remember before I even papers. She did not want me to do military because I wasn't coming out of the gate. Whole, military. That's what I'm gonna do. And so she'd been with long enough to, when I brought, she's like, no, didn't want to be one of them couples or military, but I did it anyways. Right? We weren't. But yeah, we were together. So, but still, supported me, and then through basic, write letters nonstop, or she'd always write me one every day at least, and I'd hear there when I could. And then when I got home, and then through the deployment, made it to down to Mississippi for the going away thing. Yeah, it was quite involved in the what do they call it, the home, like the wives and the community, that the families that had us or whatever, so whatever they would do to keep, especially for the kids, families, and that type of stuff. So yeah, and then stuck through it. And then it was cool. I mean, obviously the boys, wives and girlfriends. I mean, they dropped like flies when we were there. Whether it was right away at Shelby, and then throughout the deployment, and then so yeah, I felt that was pretty cool to have. It was hard. As it progressed, we bought internet, or a dish, and then we had more internet, not just so you could do more messaging and stuff when we're back at Toledo, which was cool. Stayed in good contact that way, and call when I could. I usually, she can attest, I'd call her that, like I said, when we were on a mission, we get wherever we're going, and and usually it was, middle of the night, so the people were, the FOBITs, or the people that were stationed at the base that never left, the phone banks and crap weren't busy. So then I was get up there, and I'd, way to chill out, or just bring myself back to what mattered. And so I'd call her then, and I don't remember what time, because she worked the vet clinic, but yeah, I'd either get her there, or else yeah.
So put you on the spot. What year did you get married?
7, we got home. So yeah, it was good. So yeah, we were. Oh yeah, it is, because yeah, we got home in 07, and we had the wedding plan. We did a lot of wedding planning over. Yeah, when I was there, and I was like, yeah, okay, sounds good. Pick out the.
Just go.
It worked out great. It was, I'm sure, a little more stressful for her than me.
Right.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, care in the world, or didn't have a care in the world there for a while. But then, I went already signed up, and was planning on going to St. Cloud Tech for electrician. I did that right. I started that school right away in September, and yeah, that was a deployment. And then from a deployment like that, they do 30, 60, 90-day drills, and that's all supposed to be classes on how do you readapt to climate, back to civilian life, a deployment, and get it in, supposed to help, stuff to help.
I mean, you're getting off active duty. I mean, 18 plus,
Yeah.
almost 2 years straight being told what to do, knowing what to do, coming back to, basically the freedom, except for it's tough no matter, the transition out.
And looking back at the time, you're like, whatever, it's who you are. But to come back from living every day, combat missions and being wired. So that mentality, and I don't want to say high strung, but just it instilled in training you for so long. And then to, whether it's come back to a job here, and I'm not just talking myself, but the other guys to come back to civilian life. And I went back to school, and it was cool because there's 3 other dudes. They weren't our company, but we're on that same deployment. Name kind of went through the same stuff. We're in different bases. So I had right away at college had 3 guys that were same boats. We obviously make best friends, and then with obviously other classmates, and I did that for 2 years, and then like pulled wires and electrician for that's what I did. And we had go ahead.
So I was gonna say, so you get back 07.
Yep.
Your brother's graduating probably around 08. When did you find out that he wanted to do the same thing? Like, I mean, if he's about 4 years younger than you, you're going to Iraq, you come back. I mean, this is 2 years of your life. I mean, what was your thoughts like? I mean, I got to be proud of somebody that wanted to serve the country, but was there fear in there of like, holy crap, I seen this, is he gonna have to do the same thing? Or, was there anything along those lines? Or
not so much. Because I think if I remember right, I think if it was when I was there, talking with either it was my parents or how I found out when he signed the papers out, as vague because I wasn't around much. But then my impression right away was like, God dang it, because he's really smart, but I get you got to see it from the basics, and that's kind of the route I wanted to see. Whereas, okay, join the military to push papers and being a mechanic, I wasn't motivated to be a mechanic as far as the occupation there. I was proud of him and it's cool, like I said earlier, that I idolized the Marines very young, and I still, for their flaws and there's a story about the first time I ran into them, out of mission. We were parked, but long story short, instead of like we do our, what do you call them, 1030s, so when we park or stop for whatever reason in the trucks, and it's always dark, but we rolled with lights. Well, you kill it, park, stop, kill your lights, and as a gunner, you use a spotlight, look whatever conditions, just to make sure you're not, roll up, say they stopped you with something up front, and you pull up and park, and you're parked right next, or sitting right next to something that's going to blow up. So you look, well, them guys, I think it was 4-lane roll, but they're on the other side. And we had GPS trackers and stuff, or you knew who was in the vicinity, who it was. And you can tell by the look, Marines doing whatever, but they pull up and stop. Silly goofies jump out and they start running around doing their, it's, I don't know what do you call them, just stuff like that. It's like, don't do it if you don't need to. I remember that always stuck with me. I'm like, why? And then Ben joined the old, make sure Marines eating crayons stigma, or that saying. There's times where I'm like, yep, that holds true. No offense. I'm sure
no, I see
smart ones, but
the crayon thing, I was like, I don't remember the crayon thing being something when I was in. So I don't know when that really started. And if it was when I was in, I don't remember it. And like, I fully have, adapt to it and go with it. I think it's hilarious. So,
and it's not a dig on like the Joes being, or the grunts being dumb. It's the Marine mentality, the leadership. I mean, dudes as a private or a whatever low rank, and you're not just jumping out of doing your own. It's the hires that are telling you what your whether it's PP, your rules of engagement, or you're stuck to, okay, no, we're doing our checks by getting out,
they're staying away.
Yeah, you're getting out and checking for stuff outside the truck. And as a tanker, the motto is death before dismount. You don't get out of your tank. That's your baby. So we roll with the same mentality. Like, yeah, I'm getting out of if you got hit, you had to pull. There's a couple times where our, TC and one of our trucks got hit, and we had to few medevacs where, obviously get out of the vehicle for that kind of situation, or if, so nothing against the Marines, but they're good.
That's so okay. So then you had a couple years left, no more deployments.
No, just drilled. We did that next once we're done with the 30, 60, 90s, and then that put us into the 08 there, and then that was a few drills, and we did a kind of a small mini gunnery, not a mini, but not a full blown exercise or what a normal AT would be. we did, it was mostly training on a new system that they were upgrading, whoever, like the civilian or the tank guys, not our, were training us on these new systems, and then we launched some rounds down range, I think, or we did, and that was fun. I got to gun for a few of them. That was, first time being a gunner in a tank. That was worth the whole army experience, the tanking experience right there. And actually, to rewind that, '08, the February, did the went to Norway. Our local, or our Minnesota National Guard has like a sister ship, or like
Okay.
with the Norwegian Guard, or their
I think
basically equivalent of our National Guard. So we sent a group there. I was there probably 100 plus of us in that group. So yeah, 2 weeks there. That was a vacation training essentially. There's a lot of skiing. It was a blast.
I believe right now, you speaking of Norway, I believe you have a cousin that's in
Yep.
Norway right now.
Janelle Johnson. Yeah,
Yeah.
she's like the called ambassador to the person that's at their embassy and does their
Like a 3-year tour over there right now with her family.
That's
So
pretty cool.
Yeah.
Listen to what she has to say. And
yeah, I have her scheduled. I don't have a scheduled date for her, but I've reached out to her, and so I look forward to future talks with her
her
too.
daughter actually is joining too. I can't think about. Oh, the one. Anyways, her daughter is joining the military too.
Elizabeth?
Yes, one that's in high school, just out of.
Yeah.
I think she's starting here.
3 daughters.
Going to base.
Yeah. 3 names.
Anyways, so that's kind of cool too. So
yeah, maybe we can get a talk to her after basic, see how that goes.
Family.
Yeah, well, there's definitely a lot of veterans, a lot of people in this community. I'm hoping that, I don't know if I've told you or told whatever, hoping this podcast can go for many years. We get these stories like this, you have stories, and it might not ever, we're not Navy SEAL, we're not Green Berets, it's never going to be a movie, but I'm hoping, 10, 20 years from now, that your story will be a chapter, your story will be a page, that someone might write a book off all these stories. If not, people can listen to them like this. So I go back to, I don't remember when I first met you. Obviously, you're one of my ex-wife's cousins, but I do remember some of the stuff, if we go, service after the uniform now for volunteering, you were part of that core group when we started that Big Bill's Little Rubber Duck here.
Yeah.
So, I pulled into your driveway here today to come here, and I looked over, and there's this little creek running through your yard. And one of the memories is springtime, that creek is flooded, the water's flowing, and our idea of how we're going to catch these ducks for this race, we tested it. Man, did it work great on this little creek that's 18 feet wide.
We had to start somewhere.
Yeah. So we started, okay, this is a great idea. 18-foot wide little creek that we're stopping the ducks. We go put this thing out on the mighty Mississippi.
Phil's got the genius idea to do it on the Mississippi.
Absolute failure.
And we got I thought we got 4 or 5 inches of rain, or it was a wet spring. So
yeah, we were doing this the Sunday after Easter. It was actually Easter Saturday, I think. We were doing it Saturday of Easter. It was the last Saturday in April, I believe. Down there in Lum Park, the river's all the way up to the road. It's flowing as flow as it could be. And, we failed. We absolutely failed that year. We got the ducks. We had people in kayaks. We had people in boats chasing them down. We got them all. We can go right back to the motto. We kept trying. We tried again the next year. We tried again the next year. It was many years. People about died. People got hurt. A lot of hard feelings on the day of. But you and your wife really stepped up, and you helped a lot. You put in a lot of good time with the JCs. I'm sure.
It was a fun chapter of our, it's crazy how life gets. We did, I don't know how many, 3-4 years there or so, maybe, I don't know, but it was a tremendous, learn lots. And that the duck race, it felt a good way to give back, and still and good, awesome friends, and still
right. So that's where, like I said, I knew of you through family, but that's where we became friends and got to know you and your wife. And your wife stepped up, and I remember her taking a lot of a role on and leadership, and really helping stuff out through those beginning years. There's still it goes on with the junior JCs. Any other volunteering you really do?
So when kind of got out of the JC, we have twin daughters. They're 14 now, and they're IVF babies. So when it was around the JC's time there, when they were just little, car seating it, and you get busy with that, and then so I kind of I didn't do quit with the JCs. Now our girls are really involved in 4-H. So that whatever part of leadership role as a adult leader, either can or try to. But a lot of it, now, especially as they get older, you kind of steer them in the right direction. And in 4-H, if you know, is more a youth leadership, or once a lot of, you have the adult leaders, obviously to kind of overlord or, to be the adults. But so yeah, and like I said, Gretchen and I were both in 4-H and really involved as far as leadership. So you kind of steer them in that direction and see and then they show sheep and non-livestock projects. We have beef cattle, so
Awesome.
and poultry, ducks and chickens. So they do all show animals at the county fair and they state fair trips. Yeah, so they call it a community service, but 4-H is a really good.
It's poaching as community service.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's a level.
either way,
it's a
you're
level
shaping.
of coaching. Yeah,
You're shaping tomorrow's leader.
and that's our our point of living this life is our next generation, my children.
Yep.
And then they're not just how you raise them or what they're doing, but so that it rubs off on their friends or what they see in them. And we I don't realize it at a time when we were that young, but how impressionable they can be to other kids. And so I guess that's a coaching in way. And then it's yeah, and I guess I'm not. Gretchen's really, she's the secretary for the Minnesota Deer Hunters, so we do quite involved with that. I don't do much as far as a leadership or a office, but go to the events or whatever. And like I said, our girls are quite into hunting. Yeah, like the Four Corn camps, and so they're very involved in the hunting end of our lives too. So
That's good.
yeah.
And then, so you farm.
Yeah.
You run a family business out here, right?
Yeah. So that's so yeah, like I said, I got home and went to electrician school, but before I even joined the military, I grew up on a dairy farm. So the growing and farming was instilled in what I like to do, but it's an occupation where well, yeah, it's farming, and that's why I kind of want to do National Guard, because I wanted to come home and have animals and not. I needed the animals or the crops. So then I picked strawberries at a grower not too far from where I grew up, and I thought, well, I've basically figured out how to grow strawberries on my own to market them, and that's what I did for money when I was early high school or through high school in the summer months, and self-taught myself that. So then when I got home, from Iraq, I started the patch again, had my parents. I was a few acres there and still was able to work as I grew, as my wife and I, supporting and helping with every bit she can at that time and getting the patch going again. And then I was a few years there at my parents. And then in 2010, I think, we had the opportunity. Both my grandparents passed, or no, was that? Oh shoot, gotta slow down. I think it was 2007 when they passed, and then my aunts and uncles family had the property, and then you're saying 2010 is when we ended up closing and getting the place. So then moved the strawberries here, and it was my, like I said, my grandparents' place. My grandpa's dad homesteaded back in, I think, this early 1907, I think, is when this house was built. So it's quite old. So the land's been in the family quite a while. So that's pretty cool. And we have when kept growing the strawberries, moved them over here on our farm, and then started a handful of beef cattle and just keep saving our heifers and growing the herd. And now we have strawberries they take work all year round except winter months, but then keeping them growing and weed free all summer. And then our pickings at mid-June, mid to mid-July.
And then some of those pickings, are those open to the public?
Yep.
So where
it's all pick your own, or the majority of it is.
Is there a website people can check? NelsonBerries.com. If you are interested, good strawberries, they can check that out. Awesome.
That's cool now. Like, our girls getting older and helping, especially with the customer end of it. I can more of the worker. I mean, I can deal with people. I don't mind that, but they're really more personal as far as checking people out and showing people
good form
where to pick, and
that's awesome.
And they're more chatty than me, so
it's good for them to get those social skills too.
Exactly.
I'm sure 4-H teaches them that.
Yeah.
Awesome. So no, that's great. Thank you so much for these stories. Like I said, back-to-back episodes with you and your brother. Parents in the military, grandparents in the military. I mean, was this just, there's 7 of you and only 2 of you went in, just like you two had that sense of pride or duty or whatever it was.
I think war and history, I think Ben and I are very similar as far as what either makes us tick or fascinating, but then yes, we had on the Nelson side or my dad's side, grandma, she had brothers that served and were KIA'd in the Pacific, and grandpa's he had, how many brothers was it? Maybe Ben said, I think 3 or 4, and were MIA or killed in action. It was in the European theater, I think. And then there's my grandpa. He didn't get drafted or called because they had the farm, so like not all the boys could get leave. And then I think there's a younger brother, Cliff. Anyways, so there's that history where you go through the cemetery. That's where grandma's brothers, they have the plaque, that they did that. So that always was there. That kind of where I idolized the Marines and they were Marines, and that's so there's that. And then as I evolved, I think in the National Guard, our Brainerd, local Brainerd, and their armor unit too. And back in World War II, that unit, one of the 194 was stationed in the Philippines or in Bataan. That's, if you know that story, the battling bastards of Bataan, they were, got overran by the Japanese, had to surrender, and then were POWs in internment camps, and then were forced to march. I don't remember the mileage, but so there's that Brainerd history there, and tankers, obviously. So you have that connection. So that, and that they still do the Bataan Death March, that annual march, to remember that, and just as I do that every year.
Part of that history went to Thailand last year with Zach, and they have that death rail and they have that cemetery over there in northern Thailand, and to see some of that history, like you said, of this firsthand right there in where it happened. So yeah, it's scary to think how many connection to Brainerd is with that.
And it feels, you can just look, there's so many, similarities as far as, them men went through the same, years, what we, there's that military connection,
right.
Them get what they, obviously different technology and stuff, but man,
they endured.
Normal dudes that were at home and did what they were asked to do. So, and then, worked out terribly for them, but yeah, he's so honored there isn't hardly any of them left. But
I think I seen a statistic the other day. It's about between 45 and 66,000 World War II veterans left. So you got to figure how old they're getting. That was 80 years ago, not more. So yeah, scary, tough to think about. So no, I appreciate this. Thank you very much. I don't know where our next episode will be, but if you ever have any questions, you can always send them separatepodcast@gmail.com. If you ever have any questions for any of my previous guests, let me know. We'll reach out, we'll talk to them, we'll ask them. All right. Thanks to Nick Nelson for doing that interview with me. After talking to him, I know it was a little bit tougher for him to do that, so I really, really appreciate that. So that wraps up our second part of episode 5. We finished up recording this. Nick went into a little bit of his mental health after this, so I want to talk a little bit more about the Be the One with the American Legion and Nick's story, so that's going to save that, and that'll be episode 6, so stay tuned next week for episode 6 with Be the One, the American Legion Veteran Suicide Awareness Program, and hearing a little bit of Nick's struggles after the military. And it was very good to hear that story, and I'm glad he could tell us and he shared that with us, because I know there's a lot of people out there that probably need to hear these stories, and make sure we share them. Thank you for tuning in to Semper Tri, because trying beats quitting. See you next week.